coming up with an original idea seems like such a rarity nowadays. With such a plethora of adaptations, sequels, remakes, and spin-offs as a part of entertainment in general, both in and outside of anime, one cannot help but get curious when they hear about something that isn't based on a pre-existing material. It's as though someone had opened the door in a dark room and the light briefly blinds you, but you can't help but keep looking to see what precisely is over the threshold. Wonder Egg Priority was like that for the winter 2021 anime season. Back when it first came out, it was a show that everyone seemed to be talking about, abuzz with theories about what could potentially come next. There's a kind of excitement in that, where everybody is lost in the wilderness together and no one has any particular inside knowledge about where the story could turn. I rarely go on anime forums or platforms, but Wonder Egg Priority during its run was something that was constantly at the forefront. Oto Ai, a girl who was made fun of for her heterochromia, has effectively become a social recluse ever since her friend Koito committed suicide. She doesn't go to school and has no other friends that she can call her own. After wandering through the streets one night, she stumbles into a realm where a gachapon machine dispenses items called Wonder Eggs, which have other young girls inside of them. The girls in these eggs are suicide victims, and have to be protected from creatures called Xeno-evils and manifestations of the people and things that led to them taking their own lives. If enough Wonder Egg girls are saved, the realm's guardians, Akka and Ura-acca, say that Koito will be brought back to life. Along with 3 other girls named Neru, Rika, and Momoe, who are buying Wonder Eggs for their own reasons, Oto resolves to protect the girls in the eggs and resurrect her friend, hoping she'll be able to provide a reason why she killed herself. Wonder Egg Priority fully utilizes the fantastical aspects of its premise to fuel its presentation. The series depends on the trauma of its characters to set the backdrops and overall aesthetic, while also affording something pleasant to the eyes. From Oto's weapon as a multicolored pen to a strange train station, it succeeds in balancing vivid colors with danger. The Xeno-evils are a threatening group of monsters, and the creativity blossoms when it comes to the more active enemies. The music was pretty engaging, never becoming too overcranked or distracting. Although the premise overall involved battling and action with its vivid colors and splashes, it was the 4 main characters that acted as the glue that kept the show's heart in focus. The situation they found themselves in is so unique that it makes their ensuing friendships and camaraderie work in a bizarre way. I never would have imagined that listening to a bunch of girls talking about how boys with Adam's apples are sexy could be adorable, but it managed to work. It was always great to see these characters fighting and defeating the various enemies, but it was the slice-of-life moments that gave their dynamic that extra spice.
僕らに聞きたいことがあったんじゃ。恋バナには勝てんな。
It's because of those kinds of moments that their discussions surrounding the emotional pain each one carries gain more significance. Even though they share their common goal, their friendship comes across as less genuine and heartfelt, and instead pricklier than it would be under different circumstances. Rika asks the question, what if the people they're seeking to return to life wouldn't want that? It poses a powerful moral question, and one that gets some fiery reactions. The idea at play here is that their own desires to resurrect their people somehow supersede the suicides of the very people they're fighting for, without regard for any feelings they may have in the afterlife. Their desires are, in part, born from guilt rather than a sense of pure altruism. Oto's emotional conflicts lie far deeper than that of simply wanting to bring Koito back to life. As we begin to get glimpses into what their friendship was like, the picture it paints is more muddled and less sunny than what we might expect. Their teacher, Shuichiro-sensei, was also seemingly involved in Koito's life in a significant manner, and his increased presence in Oto's life in the here and now provides even further complication. Between the moral arguments at play here, the varying circumstances through which the girls within the Wonder Eggs killed themselves, and many lingering questions about what has been going on with the characters that we see and interact with regularly, Wonder Egg Priority lives within psychological discomfort. The intensity the show managed to evoke reveals that disturbing storytelling not only has its place, but can provide a stimulation for the mind that other types of entertainment cannot normally do. Its dark material came with a strong magnetism that other magical girl shows don't tend to be known for. The action scenes themselves carry a similar powerful charge. Though the girls within the Wonder Eggs don't necessarily have the most thorough fleshing out as far as characters are concerned, the 4 friends act as the grounding for giving the fights their tension. Some of the Wonder Egg girls are not simple bystanders either, as things they say or do have the potential to help the flow of battle. They become more actively involved in their own limited ways. This leads to some great moments for all participants involved, and a few kills in the show are very satisfying. But if there was one aspect of Wonder Egg Priority that seemed to get talked about more than anything else down the line, it was its troubled production schedule. I won't get into specifics, since I am more than positive that there are others on this site who know far more about the details than I do. The curtain peeled back when the wonderment that the series brought unfortunately hit a serious roadblock with the surprise of Episode 8, a recap episode. Recaps usually happen at the conclusion of longer arcs, or when an episode could not be finished in time, so having a recap in the middle of a show like this broke its forward momentum. With one episode less of material to utilize, the show appeared to pick up the speed on trying to get everything else on the table world-building-wise. By the time the series reached its final episode, it had turned from a more standardized form of storytelling to an abstract, less coherent venture. Abstract endings or a change in the manner of presentation are not in and of themselves bad. They can cause the viewer to see the previous material in a new light, especially for something that delves into a deeper kind of psychological probing. The problem here lies in the transition between the two. Because the final few episodes of the series introduce so many new ideas, characters, and backstories, the new abstract storytelling doesn't give the series enough time to explore all of it. One could easily say that a series is not obligated to make everything clear, and under normal circumstances, I would agree. One caveat is that it's not enough for a show to leave blanks to be filled in with your imagination. It should stimulate the imagination and give you something you feel compelled to actively think about once it's finished. And that's ultimately where the heart of this criticism lies. By the time it was over, I just wasn't stimulated by Wonder Egg Priority enough to play along. So the series ended, but the story itself did not. The news came out that a 1-hour special would be airing later in the year, and so the fanbase was left waiting until the end of June for the special that would hopefully bring about a more cohesive ending. Unfortunately, I cannot say that it did its job well. Some of the lingering threads were given such a brief explanation that it seemed like they were thrown in to get them out of the way, while other things that felt like they needed more time to germinate never got to properly sprout. What the special did with Oto herself did provide some closure, but not nearly enough for everyone else involved. Again, my imagination just didn't want to continue. There is certainly enough unresolved material for a second season if CloverWorks were to decide to try their hand at the franchise again. But given the manner by which the story led up to its ending, I would be nervous thinking about how well they would handle it. Wonder Egg Priority is an example of a show demonstrating that not quite sticking the landing has the potential to deflate its fascinating world-building, action, animation, and characters. You don't need to have every aspect of the plot or the characters resolved with a neat little bow, but there still needs to be enough of a bow to make the series feel like it could be a sensible stopping point. Despite its trip at the finish line, there were so many wonderful things about the show that I do recommend giving the series an honest chance through to the end. For better or worse, shows like this do not come around that often. Especially because it's an original, it should be seen both for the merits it presented and for the mistakes we hope will not happen again. At the end of it all, as disappointed as I was, I don't regret seeing it. In its entirety, I give Wonder Egg Priority a 5 out of 10.